Hey, you. You're finally awake.
When most people think of the NES, they picture blocky sprites, a limited colour palette, and simplistic environments. But in the right hands, this 8-bit console could produce visuals that were nothing short of astonishing. Some developers pushed the NES hardware to its absolute limits, crafting games and looked and felt they belonged on a more powerful system. In today's video, we're going to spotlight 7 of the best looking games on the NES, titles that just deliver on gameplay, but also raise the bar for visual artistry. As always, this is just 7 games I've chosen, not necessarily the best, so if there are ones I need to talk about, put them in the comments below, and if you have played any of these games, let me know your history about them. Now before we get into this list, if you do think I deserve it, please hit that like and subscribe button, it really helps the channel grow. We've also got a weekly podcast, where this week we're looking at now Aladdin for the Mega Drive. And also we've got a $1 a month Patreon, where you can join the Smut Squad, get involved in the podcast, and get your own show. Right, let's get into it, shall we? 7 of the best looking games for the NES. Blaster Master. Blaster Master is a sci-fi action platformer developed by Sunsoft, known for its compelling gameplay and incredible graphics. The player takes control of Jason, who pilots a powerful tank named Sophia III in a mission to recover his lost frog and battle mutants lurking beneath the Earth's surface. The absurd premise hides one of the NES' most technically advanced titles. What made Blaster Master stand out was its dual perspective gameplay. The game alternated between side-scrolling tank levels and top-down on-foot shooter segments. This variety wasn't just gameplay deep, it gave Sunsoft the opportunity to flex their muscles with different graphical styles and perspectives. The side-scrolling segments in particular are stunning. Sophia is rendered with impressive detail, complete with multiple moving parts and realistic recoil animations. The scrolling backgrounds feature complex patterns, caves, machinery and alien terrain rendered in a variety of palettes that suggest atmosphere and depth. The top-down areas also showcased large, impressive bosses with intricate sprite work and multi-phase animations. These visuals were combined with a clean UI, readable enemy movements, and backgrounds that felt alive with their moving elements and vibrant designs. Sunsoft used lighting and contrast to fake dynamic shading, which made everything from caves to mechanical layers feel immersive. Explosions too had multiple frames of animation and layered effects, making each blast visually satisfying and well integrated. Technically, Blaster Master featured smooth scrolling, sprite multiplexing, and minimal flicker, common issues on NES games that are massively avoided here. The game's performance remained stable even during chaotic on-screen action. Complementing the visuals was an iconic soundtrack, which paired with the visuals fantastically to create one of the most immersive experiences on the system. The audio-visual cohesion elevated the game far beyond its contemporaries. Blaster Master received praise upon release for its challenging gameplay and striking graphics. Reviewers noted that it looked and felt more advanced from many of its NES's peers. It became a quiet but influential success story for Sunsoft. Its legacy lives on through Blaster Master Zero series, which recreated the charm and visual identity of the original. But even today, fans return to the NES version, in part because of its visual artistry is so enduring. When discussing the most beautiful NES games, Blaster Master always earns its place. It's a textbook example of how creative programming and thoughtful design could push the NES far beyond expectations. Super Mario Bros. 3. Super Mario Bros. 3 is not just a masterclass in platforming, it's also a visual showcase for what the NES could truly achieve. Developed by Nintendo and released in 1990, the game stunned players with its scale, creativity, and breathtaking art direction. Every world in Mario 3 looked distinct, from grassy plains to pipe-infested islands, icy peaks, deserts, and fiery wasteland. Every world in Mario 3 looked distinct, from grassy plains to pipe-infested islands, icy peaks, deserts and fiery wastelands. Each area felt like a new adventure thanks to the wildly different tile sets and colour schemes. The consistency of style paired with the variety made for an endlessly engaging experience. The overworld maps added to this charm, looking like an interactive board game with animated elements like walking hammer brothers and floating airships. These maps made the game feel like a sprawling fantasy, adding presentation and depth between stages. Mario himself was more animated than ever before, with a broader sprite set to support new abilities like flying with the raccoon tail, turning into a statue with a tanuki suit, or swimming gracefully in a frog suit. Each transformation came with its own custom sprite, all smoothly animated. What really pushed the visuals forward was the use of custom memory mapper chip, which allowed Nintendo to include larger levels, more animations, and scrolling that was both fast and fluid. Unlike early NES platformers, Mario 3 could support both horizontal and vertical scrolling in the same level. Enemy designs were more detailed and more diverse than previous Mario titles. Koopalings each had unique appearances, Boom Boom was animated differently across each counters, and even the smallest Goomba felt more alive thanks to refined sprite work. The airship levels especially deserved praise. Giant cannons, puffs of smoke, and rocking ship hulls all created an atmosphere of danger and tension. It was an early example of environmental storytelling on the NES's pure visual elements. Critics hailed Super Mario Bros. 3 as the pinnacle NES design. It wasn't just a fun game, it was beautiful to look at, full of personality and technically astonishing. It became the system's second best-selling title, surpassed only by the original Super Mario Bros. Today, it's remembered not just for its gameplay innovations, but for proving the NES could still deliver visual magic even in its twilight years. Few 8-bit games before or since have looked this polished or vibrant. Super Mario Bros. Remains a visual and design benchmark. Whether on original hardware or through modern emulation, its graphics still shine, clear, colourful and iconic. Little Samson. Little Samson arrived late in the NES's life cycle, and it shows in the best way possible. Released in 1992, this criminally underrated platform by developer Takeru and published by Taito is often regarded as one of the best looking games ever made for the system. The game follows 4 characters: Little Samson, Kikira the Dragon, Gam the Golem, and KO the Mouse, each with unique abilities and movement styles. Their visual designs are equally varied, giving the game a lot of personality and flair. The sprite work in Little Samson is immaculate. Each character is beautifully animated with multiple frames that reflect their movements and abilities. Gam, for example, lumbers forward with his weight and power, while KO scurries quickly and nimbly, both conveyed perfectly through visuals. Environments are packed with detail, whether you're in an icy cavern, a burning ruin, or a lush jungle. Every level bursts with colour and layered textures. The parallax scrolling is minimal, but cleverly faked through design tricks, making the world feel deep and lived in. The bosses are huge and well animated, rather than the best bosses in Mega Man or Ninja Gaiden. Some of them even take up half the screen. Their attacks, transformations and expressive phases demonstrate an attention to detail rarely seen on the NES. Backgrounds aren't static or flat. They're filled with decorative flourishes like flickering torches, flowing water or ambient effects that breathe life into the world. The game even introduces pseudo-lighting effects using colour contrast and shading, which is rare on the NES. Despite all their complexity, performance remains silky smooth. Flicker is minimal and slowdown is rare even during large chaotic boss encounters. The game's engine was expertly optimised to maintain responsiveness. Unfortunately, due to its late release and lack of marketing, Little Samson went under the radar. Few players bought it, and today it's one of the rarest and most expensive NES cartridges, but for those who did play it, it recognised its quality immediately. Over time, Little Samson has gained a cult following. It's now heralded as one of the finest hidden gems on the NES, both for its tight gameplay and its extraordinary visuals. Many fans see it as the spiritual successor to Capcom's best 8-bit efforts. If you want to see what the NES could truly achieve when developers are at the top of their game, Little Samson is the perfect case study. It's a visual tour de force that still dazzles to this day. Castlevania III: Dracula's Curse. Castlevania III: Dracula's Curse is a prequel to the original Castlevania and one of the most technically ambitious games Konami ever developed for the NES. Released in 1990, it tells the story of Trevor Belmont, an ancestor of Simon Belmont, as he ventures to stop Dracula alongside a cast of allies. Visually, this game pushed the NES beyond what many thought was possible. Unlike many earlier NES games, Castlevania III used Konami's custom VRC6 memory mapper chip in its Japanese version, which allowed for advanced features like extra sound channels and better graphics. While the North American version lacked the expanded audio, it retained the graphical benefits, showcasing enormous, richly detailed levels. The game's environments are varied and atmospheric: moonlit forests, gothic cathedrals, stormy clock towers and infernal caverns. Each location is themed not just in layout but in visuals, using detailed tile sets and backgrounds that exclude a dark horror fantasy aesthetic. Enemy sprites are well animated, varied and themed to match each level. You'll fight skeletal knights, ghostly spirits and monstrous abominations that would be right at home in a universal horror movie. The designs aren't just scary, they're intricately drawn with creative use of limited pixels. The game makes brilliant use of the NES's colour palette to convey the mood. Murky blues dominate ghostly graveyards, reds and oranges saturate hellish depths, and cold greys fill ancient ruins. The palette swaps are never lazy, they serve to deepen the game's foreboding atmosphere. What's more impressive is the level of animation. Moving platforms, rotating gears in the clock tower, breaking bridges and collapsing staircases all move with fluidity. Even the player characters like Trevor and his companions have unique walking, jumping and attack animations that give them personality. Bosses, as expected, are highlights. Some span multiple screens and come with transitional phases, one example being the Golem that loses piece of its body as it takes damage. These fights blend gameplay and cinematic spectacle rarely seen on the NES. Despite the graphical complexity, the game's performance is rock solid. Konami's developers optimised the engine to handle large sprites and complex animations with little flicker or slowdown, a significant feat for the hardware. Critics at the time praised Castlevania III for its impressive graphics and sound, calling it one of the most polished games on the NES, and even today it's seen as a high watermark for 8-bit audio-visual design. The legacy of Castlevania III is immense. Its visuals inspired later titles in the franchise, and it remains a fan favourite that showcases how the NES, when pushed to its limit, could render a rich gothic world full of detail and atmosphere. Mega Man 6. Released in 1994, long after its developers had moved on to the Super Nintendo, Mega Man 6 stands as a swan song for the NES. It's not just a fine-tuned action platformer, it's one of the most visually impressive titles ever made on the system, showcasing how far Capcom had come in mastering the NES development. By this point, Capcom's artists were experts at squeezing personality out of tiny sprites, and Mega Man 6 took that artistry to a new level. The Blue Bomber himself was more expressive and fluid than ever, and each new rush of Dr. Armor, Jet and Power were represented by completely new sprites. What really makes Mega Man 6 stand out is its level diversity. Every Robot Master's design is themed after a different country or region, allowing the artists to craft wildly different visual elements. Every Robot Master's design is themed after a different country or region, allowing the artists to craft wildly different visual environments, from the snow-covered peaks of Blizzard Man stage to the fiery deserts of Flame Man's level. These stages weren't just different in theme, they were gorgeously rendered. Capcom used complex tile patterns, multi-layered backgrounds, and pseudo 3D design tricks to make each area look deep and alive. Tomahawk Man's Old West Town, for example, includes sunlit lighting and decorative buildings rarely seen in NES titles. Boss sprites are large, colourful, and full of personality. Even mid-bosses feature intricate animations and transition frames. The design of the Robot Masters in Mega Man 6 is among some of the most creative and well animated in the series. Mega Man sprite animations for jumping, sliding, charging and firing are buttery smooth, with very little flicker or glitching. Even as multiple enemies crowd the screen, the game maintains strong performance thanks to its refined programming. Mega Man 6 also used innovative visual elements like split paths and vertical scrolling rooms that help break up the visual monotony often found in other NES games. These design choices made the game feel fresh while simultaneously offering a technical showcase. Though Mega Man 6 released late in the NES's life, it received solid reviews. Critics praised its refined visuals and solid gameplay, even if they noted it felt more evolutionary rather than revolutionary in terms of design, but visually few NES games could compete against it. Today, Mega Man 6 is remembered fondly as the most visually ambitious game in the classic Mega Man lineup on the NES. Its meticulous attention to visual detail makes it a standout, even when compared to early SNES titles. As a final NES entry for the Blue Bomber, Mega Man 6 is a celebration of Capcom's 8-bit mastery, polished, colourful, and beautiful from start to finish. Kirbys Adventure. Kirbys Adventure arrived late in the NES lifecycle, launching in 1993, and it immediately wowed players with visuals that defined expectations for the aging console. Developed by HAL Laboratory, it not only introduced Kirby's signature ability to copy powers, it also stood as one of the best looking games on the system. From the moment you boot up Kirbys Adventure, the graphics are bright, playful and full of charm. The game uses the full NES colour palette more effectively than perhaps any other title, producing scenes that are vibrant and expressive. Kirby's sprite is soft and rounded, animated with surprising nuance. Whenever he's floating, running, puffing up to fly or inhaling enemies, every motion is captured with fluid animations that rarely suffer from flicker. The real star, however, is the background art. Each level world, from grasslands to ice caverns, deserts to space dreamscapes, is lovingly detailed. HAL used layering tricks and colour gradients to create a faux power-like effect that gives depth to the scenery. Enemy sprites are also full of character. Each has unique idle animations and attack patterns, and the bosses are especially impressive, large, detailed and smoothly animated, rivaling anything seen in Mega Man or Castlevania. Kirbys Adventure also makes extensive use of screen transitions, visual effects like shimmering, stars and warp doors, and full-screen animated cutscenes, which are extremely rare on the NES. These visual flourishes give the game a sense of polish that rivals early 16-bit efforts. The use of creative visual metaphors like dream-themed stages, checkerboard skies, and surreal floating islands demonstrates HAL's artistic ambition. The game isn't just technically impressive, it's aesthetically cohesive and dreamlike. Despite all this, performance is strong, slowdown is minimal, and the game avoids screen tearing or glitching, even during its most effect-heavy sequences. It's clear HAL was squeezing every ounce of power from the system. Critics at the time praised the game for its visuals, calling it a late-generation triumph. It proved that the NES still had plenty of life in it, and players of all ages were dazzled by its colourful, imaginative world. Kirbys Adventure is often considered one of the most visually impressive 8-bit games ever made. Its success cemented Kirby as a Nintendo icon and demonstrated what true mastery of the NES could actually achieve. Batman: Return of the Joker. Now, Batman: Return of the Joker is one of the most visually stunning games ever released on the NES. Developed by Sunsoft in 1991, the game surprised fans with visuals so advanced, many people thought it was running on 16-bit hardware. Right from the title screen, it's clear this game is something special. Batman's sprite is enormous, heavily detailed, and features more shading and depth than almost any NES character sprite. He's drawn in a style reminiscent of comic books, with bold lines and a sense of weight. But what truly sets the game apart is its use of shading and colour. The artists at Sunsoft used dithering and custom palettes to fake lighting and texture. Batman's armour reflects light, walls appear metallic, and backgrounds use gradients to suggest atmosphere. The level design is visually rich, from neon city landscapes to cyberpunk factories and high-tech labs. Many environments feature animated elements like moving grass, flashing lights, or mechanical platforms, creating a sense of living, breathing worlds. Enemies and bosses are just as detailed. Each foe looks distinct with animations that surpass the NES norm. Some of the bosses are enormous and feature multiple phases, all while maintaining graphical fidelity without flicker. Perhaps most impressive are the cutscenes, featuring full-screen illustrations of Batman and the Joker that look more like Sega Mega Drive or TurboGrafx graphics than NES art. These stills are packed with detail and colour depth rarely seen on the system. Sunsoft employed custom memory mapping chips to push the NES further than most developers dared. The result was a game that ran smoothly even when pushing large detailed sprites and busy backgrounds onto the screen. Despite its high difficulty and lack of direct ties to the Tim Burton movies, Return of the Joker received positive reviews, largely thanks to its stunning visuals and excellent soundtrack. Critics and players alike were impressed by how modern it looked. Today, Batman Return of the Joker is remembered as one of the most technically sophisticated NES games ever created. It's often used as a benchmark to show what was possible on 8-bit hardware in the right hands. As a visual achievement, it represents the very peak of NES graphics: detailed, stylish, bold, and uncompromising. And that's it. 7 visually fantastic games for the NES. Are the ones that I missed? Make sure to put your comments down below. And as always, if you really think I've deserved it, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you again in 3 days for another video. My name's been Danny, take care of yourself, bye bye.